I've gotten a lot of requests to do this one. I've had a lot of ladies asking if I would do a self-defense type video devoted to them. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to discuss several self-defense strategies for ladies. Stick around. This video will not just be talking points. It will be talking points as well as some specifics and some base technique, which you will see more towards the end of the video. This one may be a little bit longer than my average video. I try to keep my videos around 7 to 8 minutes max. We may go beyond that because there's several things that I need to cover. Another thing that inspired this video was I saw a very popular influencer the other day basically saying that it was useless for women to study self-defense. In a nutshell, he was saying that there was no way that they would be able to handle the violence of a man, and that all of the self-defense stuff that they're teaching and learning is just unrealistic. And a lot of it is, but a lot of it is not. One of the things I do to gain insight from my channel is I watch footage. I watch footage of fights, occurrences, and I don't always enjoy doing that, but it gives me a lot of insight. And I will tell you that I have seen plenty of times where women overcame a male attacker. I've seen videos where women won fights against male attackers, or at least was able to evade. In reality, man, we all come in different shapes and sizes. We all have different backgrounds, training backgrounds, fighter IQ, physical abilities. All of these things go into the stew pot and they all matter. It's not always your average woman against your average male. It's just not. It's not always that. We don't know what situations are going to occur. You know, a bear is much more physically powerful and dangerous than I am, but I'm still prepared to deal with a bear attack in the woods. Number one, trying to stay out of his way. Number two, bear spray, firearms if need be, big knives if need be. I can't go toe-to-toe with a grizzly bear, obviously. He'll have me for lunch. But that don't mean that I'm not going to engage in the proper attempt to be able to defend myself against one. So the logic of this influencer goes out the window. The study of self-defense and protection is for everyone. We all just may need to play different games at different times. To say that it's always women going toe-to-toe with men is a narrow-minded blanket statement. Please understand this video is going to be very foundational. You'll have to take this video and then go out and do your own research, do your own homework in certain areas, but this is going to be, I believe, a good foundation for you. The first strategy I want to talk about to the ladies is having a reality-based self-defense strategy and understanding. The topic of martial arts was a funny thing in the 70s and 80s, man. People almost deified, mystified, whatever you want to call it, these martial arts characters. You know, if you told somebody you had a black belt in karate, then, ooh, everybody was supposed to be afraid of you. You were going to be able to take anyone. You could be a small kid. You could beat up grown adults. You could be, you know, an average-sized woman and take on 5 men. People had this unrealistic view of martial arts. Over the years, because of various martial arts competitions and tests, we've seen a lot of reality in the fact that size matters and that different styles matter. A lot of traditional martial arts who had all these degrees, all these black belts, were humbled by guys who were just wrestlers. The wrestler would scoop them up, take them to the ground, pound them out. The fight was over. To get down to the point, there's no magical formula. There's no magical technique that's going to give you as a lady the ability to overcome every male out here who's just a regular street fighter. They're still dangerous. Their size matters. Their ferocity matters. So you've got to have a realistic approach. A martial art in and of itself is not going to fix your need to learn self-defense. Martial arts will help, as we will later on in this video go over some basics. But a reality-based understanding of self-defense is knowing the odds that are already stacked against you when you look at the reality between men and women and combat. I saw the funniest video years ago. It was this man and woman fighting in the street, and the woman had some size on the man. He looked kind of like a little crackhead type, you know, but he was trying to fight this woman, and he got steamrolled, ladies and gentlemen. Like he got steamrolled. So there are situations where, you know, a woman can smash a guy, but it's just not the norm. There are several elements to fighting. There's the striking realm. hands, elbows, knees, kicks, headbutts. Then there's wrestling, this natural struggle that goes on between two people trying to gain leverage over each other. There's grappling and submissions, where the wrestling goes to the next level and you're trying to, choke out your opponent or put them in some sort of submission to make them quit and unable to continue. Then there's the use of weapons, equalizers, self-defense tools, and then there's the element of avoiding or getting away. These are all the elements of your reality-based training you need to be engaging in. The next strategy I want to talk about is putting your health and physical fitness way up on the totem pole, because if you're concerned about being able to defend yourself, physicality matters. Again, I have witnessed situations where men who were not so athletic had a hard time dealing with women who were. It's common sense that good physical condition is going to give you the ability to evade better. It's going to give you the ability to fight better. It's just going to give you more advantages all the way around. So physical fitness must be a priority if self-defense is a priority, because you need to be able to explode as much as you can. I'll share this as well. I've got several people in this community that I train with and some that I have trained with in the past. And a couple of years back, I was teaching a ladies self-defense class, and there was one particular lady in there that I will leave unnamed. She's in her 60s, but she's been in good physical condition her whole life. She's explosive, and I'm telling you right now, this woman will take somebody's head off. Her level of ferocity and killer instinct was astounding. She was powerful, she was strong, she was hard to get a hold of, and I believe that somebody like her would do very well against some slouch of a dude trying to have his way. So make physical fitness part of your strategy. The next strategy I want to talk about is how you go through your day-to-day life. I get tired of saying the words situational awareness, because it's like a repetitive thing in this community, and a lot of people just use that as a way to summarize being aware, but it goes much deeper than that. We got to talk about what that looks like, such as, going places by yourself that you shouldn't, knowing when to have somebody walk with you. A lot of ladies are seized upon because the predator finds the opportune time when they're alone and they're able to. So there's times when you got to think about, should I go certain places at certain times by myself? No. A young lady here in my hometown several years ago was attacked. It was a gang initiation, but she was at Walmart at 1 o'clock in the morning. If you're in a major city and you have to walk up several flights of a parking deck to get to your vehicle, are you going to do that by yourself? Are you going to have somebody go with you? I think you should have someone go with you. Are you going to be making that grocery or that shopping trip at night after dark? Well, I'm not going to tell you to be so paranoid that you got to be a prisoner in your house, but you're going to have to go through some extra precautions. You're going to have to scope the parameters. Don't just pull up to a place and get out of your car and start walking. Know what's going on, or have someone go with you. And no dude needs to be approaching you as a woman in any way. If he's coming at you, that's not normal. No man needs to be approaching a woman who is by herself. You may appear like an easy target to predators, but if you're tuned in, you're not going to be an easy target. I could have talked about this first, because the wisdom, smarts, and common sense that it takes to avoid being in situations is at the top of the list. It's not a bad idea to let somebody know where you're going. Nowadays we got things like Life 360. My family uses that. We don't abuse it. We don't stand over it with a magnifying glass, but there may be times where if my wife's going somewhere or if I'm going somewhere, they may peek at the Life 360 to make sure I got there okay and that I'm traveling back home okay. Next, it's time to pick your weaponry. What are you comfortable carrying? If you're an American citizen, you have the right to bear arms. And I know a lot of women already carry. Now, I would say if you're carrying, make sure you're regularly shooting and training with what you carry. But if you're not carrying a firearm, then you should carry something. You should carry pepper spray. You should carry something with the ability to sting or pierce if you're comfortable. It's a lot of different things. You can use things like stun guns, personal alarms. There's this little thing that you can just pull out and set the alarm. It'll make noise. This is a little personal security alarm by Police Magnum. All you gotta do is pull it and the thing starts going nuts. Flashlights, flashing someone in the eye will greatly disorient somebody who's walking up to you. Something as simple as pulling a light out and disorienting. He can't keep coming forward if that amount of light hits him in the face. It's going to stop him very quickly. This one's from Woobin. This is the T1, but you don't even need one this big. I carry the ArcField Pro from Olight. You can cut this on. You can change the brightness, as you can tell, just by holding down the button. But one thing you can do is just keep it on its brightest setting and turn it off. Guy comes along you don't feel at peace with, boom. Again, this is plenty of light. There's a myriad of options. You need equalizers in a world full of monsters out here. If you're walking around with nothing, this has to change, because you don't want to have to go toe-to-toe if you don't have to. But if you have to go toe-to-toe and you have to strike, if you have to use your hands, your elbows, your feet, let's talk about some strikes that work, that hurt. How do you like my perpetrator here? He's big and nasty and intimidating. If I wanted to create a shock response with this big monster standing in front of me, I'm not going to ball up my fist and punch him in the cheek. So many people do that intuitively. That's probably not going to hurt him. People intuitively just punch to the face. It's deeper than that. There are things on him that have a shock response, such as if you touch his eyes in any way, all I got to do is just reach up, put my fingers here. I'm not talking about doing this stupid stuff. I'm talking about just reaching up with your fingers extended and bent. Always bend your fingers. Reach for the face and just keep your fingers bent so that you don't jam your fingers. But there's also the ability to take these knuckles and pop in the eye. It's very quick. It's one of those things that can shoot right up the middle, pop him in his eye, evade, pop, get back out of there, and do what you can to keep buying yourself time. Sometimes just a simple touch to the face. I'm not talking about ramming the bone up the nose. I'm not talking about none of that stuff. I'm talking about touching, just touch and get back. Ways that you can create a wall between you and him instead of just balling up your fist and going toe-to-toe with this beast who's probably going to swing on you a couple of times before he grabs you and picks you up. Okay, you want to be able to create a shock, maybe create a distraction, the ability to get away that second that you need. Open-handed smacks, either right to the ear or right in this region behind the jaw under the ear. Put your whole body in it. You're not going to break your hand, and it's going to jolt that individual. It doesn't feel good. I've actually seen women knock men out with a smack. Look, I even knocked his clothes off. I slapped him naked. Something else that can be very destructive is a shot right here to the trachea. Now, one advantage that women would have in this situation is oftentimes they have smaller fists that can fit into smaller areas. And if you're able to get into that trachea with enough power, you can get back. It hurts. It's very damaging to get hit in the trachea successfully. So remember, there's ways to shock. There's back fist to the eye, touch the eyes, flat hand to the face. Let's just say you've got like pepper spray in your hand and he's moving forward and he's moving forward too fast. You can create that wall here. Boom, spray him. You don't have to just reach out and spray him. Sometimes it's boom, boom, spray him just like that. Create that setup. Try to conceal your pepper spray as much as possible, but sometimes just a simple wall or a simple wall here can set this up. If you're in tight, elbows here to these vitals, elbows underneath, putting those elbows in tight, you may find yourself in a situation where that's all you can do in a tight struggle. But elbows are very uncomfortable to be getting hit with, and elbows are hard. I like to just practice elbowing right here behind the jaw, under the ear, boom, as hard as you can. Sink that thing in. Sometimes you can just put the elbow in front of the attacker, right for the throat. Just keep it in front of you. Keep your guard up here. Just use it as a shield to keep them from coming forward. Strong stance, strong foundation. You can set it up, get back. All kinds of different ways you can set up effective shock hits to create at least a second or two of opportunity to get back. What if you're carrying a knife or something like this that can sting? Sometimes the ability to simply stop him coming forward to deploy what you're going to use. There's ways to set up attacks. You know, if you could touch somebody's eyes and get away and get back enough to skedaddle or call for help, that's one thing. But what if he keeps coming? You know, again, there are other ways to continue equalizing that great threat. Just remember this with edged weapons and sharp weapons like this. Train with them. It's very important that you maintain them. The risk of carrying this is these can get turned on you very quickly, and that's the only disclaimer I want to throw out here. Something like this or a knife is designed to help you get back and get away. The trachea is a shock response. If somebody gets hit in the trachea with something like this, it creates an immediate shock. It's the same with the eyes. Again, this is for life and death, not for arguments. But these are two shock zone areas. If you're in tight, you're in a struggle, kidneys are a shock zone. The heart is a shock zone. Some states will allow things like leather saps. Now, you've got to check your state laws with these. These are heavily regulated because these do severe damage. They can fracture skulls. There are obviously more elements to the fight than the strikes. That's where you got to default back to the first thing we talked about, and that is figuring out whether or not you want to get into jiu-jitsu, figuring out whether or not you want to join an MMA gym where you may have the opportunity to get experience in various dimensions of the fight. I know MMA and the real world are not the same, but it's still going to help you develop a base. All of these things are optional, but there are things you can do to build your fighter IQ and just develop a greater instinct in fighting. But to recap, it's all going to come down to having a reality-based view of self-defense, engaging in health and fitness, always developing your avoidance strategies, carrying around the right self-protection tools, and knowing how to act if need be. There is so much more to this, but this video is a mere foundation. So I hope you have found it helpful. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll stick around because we talk about these things on this channel on a regular basis. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.